So hey, you remember when I said this? To put it another way, the capitalists consider the fascists less of a threat to them than, say, anti-fascists. And they're willing to work with the fascists to stop reform from happening within the capitalist system. Something that the fascists also want, incidentally. Yeah, we're gonna talk about that now. Quick point, neoliberals will not save you. Let's get cracking. So a couple disclaimers before we start off, like, full bore. One, I'm clearly not talking about all liberals or neoliberals. Like I said in the fascism video, there are people like Bill Gates, people like fucking Nancy Pelosi, people like George Soros, who are neoliberal shills and who are also obviously not supporting fascism. But there are people within the capitalist neoliberal system who support fascism, and neoliberalism as a whole sort of kind of implicitly supports fascism. We'll get into that. Second, and this is going to be much more annoying, the fascism video that I made is going to be required viewing for this. I'm going to be building off quite a bit from that. So something that needs to be understood about powerful institutions, not just liberalism, but like liberalism is a thing that's in charge now, so that's what we're talking about. Any powerful institution seeks to eliminate threats to the people who control it. Think about groups like the Occupy movement, like Black Lives Matter, like the Standing Rock protesters. All of these groups work to subvert the power of the people who are behind the wheel of the system that we're living in. And incidentally, all of these people, while protesting non-violently, were met with violence by the state. Sort that one out. I kind of went into this in another one of the videos that I made, A Sin is an Act of Violence Against God, which I'm really proud of. I really like that video still. But what it is that these people see anything that subverts their authority as being inherently violent, even if it's explicitly peaceful, like the Standing Rock protests, or like the Occupy movement was. If it's subverting authority, then it's enacting violence upon that authority. Somehow. It's not a viewpoint I share, obviously. Meanwhile, while liberals don't explicitly approve of fascists, they do approve of the fascists' right to speak out against groups that are protesting against them, including vulnerable minorities. That includes things up to including actually doing violence upon these groups. Like Charlottesville? Charlottesville was a thing that was championed by the ACLU. Charlottesville was a legal rally until the second that it stopped being a legal rally. It was something that was enabled by the state, that was enabled by people who are champions of liberal democracy, the fucking ACLU. Never forget that, by the way. I would hope that I don't have to explain that fascists have a vested interest in not being held accountable for their misdeeds. And yet, here we are. So here's the linchpin of the thing. Here's the point that I'm ultimately making. Liberals, that is, again, neoliberal capitalists, the people who are behind the wheel of the systems that are fucking everybody over, those people don't see the fascists as being as much of a threat to their dominance in the world as they see the anti-fascists as being a threat. Because those anti-fascists tend to be people who want to reform the system, to take power away from those neoliberal capitalists. It's not that liberals are fascists, it's just that, you know, the liberals aren't gonna kick Hitler out of bed. Shit, I made that joke. And this relationship goes both ways. The fascists need the liberals to support them in order for their violence to be viewed as legitimate, which will keep the state from coming after them. And that has worked. It's well known that actual far-right groups are not only much more active and much more violent as of late, but they aren't being tracked and followed by government groups. You do have groups like the Southern Poverty Law Center that are following these people, but those are much smaller organizations. They don't have the reach of the federal government. The thing that liberals... It's not quite that they don't understand it, it's just that they're kind of gambling with it. The fascists aren't going to be a threat to the liberals until the fascists begin to consolidate their power. But by the point where they're willing to do that, where they're able to do that, it's too late for the liberals to stop them. That's what happened in Nazi Germany with the Night of Long Knives, for example. The liberals are wagering that they can keep the fascists from coming into power in a legitimate way until they beat off the people that want to change the system. That seems to be a bet that they're losing, being as you have an actual literal fascist in the White House right now. What the liberals don't seem to realize is that the fascists are savvy enough that they aren't going to do that until they know that they'll win. And by that point, they'll have taken care of people like me. The liberals won't save you. They have no interest in saving you if you want to reform the system. They want things exactly as they are. They're making bank on the way things are. So what do we do? Well, I think a contemporary of mine, a guy named Thought Slime, put it best. They're not going to save us. We are going to save us. These last few videos, the one about fascism, the one about anti-fascism, and this one about neoliberals, they've all been part of a trilogy of sorts. The first one was about what fascism is, how to identify it, and how to counter it. The second one was about anti-fascism, what anti-fascism is, how anti-fascism works, and how you can become an anti-fascist. And this one is about how the system enables fascists to operate. All three of these things are vital to having an understanding of how not just fascism functions in our world, but how to stop it. And then we can stop it. We've been quite effective at stopping it. But it's not enough. I'm not just an anti-fascist. I'm also an anarchist and a communist. And that means that there are enemies bigger than fascism that we're going to have to fight. That means we're going to have to go toe-to-toe with the neoliberals and the capitalists at some point. Or I am. If you're like me, then if you're anything like me, then you're going to go up against them too. And I think I have some ideas on how to do that. Yeah, editing Ron back in. So yeah, I actually plan, like, in advance at least these first 3 videos in this quasi-series, this trilogy. They were all supposed to be part of a bigger whole. I hope it turned out alright. Like, tell me in the comments, by all means, but I hope it at least turned into something acceptable. I have this journal that I got for Christmas that I use to plan out all of my episodes in advance. Or I'm using it to do that now, just to keep on top of things. So, like, the next series of videos that I'm going to be making are going to be about neoliberalism and capitalism and why they're bad and how we can oppose them. I have some notes here. The first one is going to be stocks are bad. The second one is going to be ruling class and the legitimacy of democracy. And the third one is going to be politicians and corporations and how to fight them. I also have a note, 1984 and the freedom of the human mind. I have a bunch of different ideas for videos. I just either don't have the time or the wherewithal to finish. Like, accelerationism is nonsense and people don't rebel when they're tired and hungry. Ideology is not trash, it's a framework. The strength of an ideology is its followers. Also, capitalism is failing. And applying theory, fascist individualism, and leftist collectivism. Like, those are all ideas that I had. Those are just ideas that I've written down since I've gotten this. I have Word documents with dozens, maybe hundreds of ideas on them. I just don't have the time to do all of them. But, like, I cannibalize ideas from them all the time and make them into something new. So that works. Like I said, next video is going to be the first in a new-ish series about how to fight neoliberalism. And it's going to be specifically about why stocks are a transfer of wealth from the poor to the rich, and why that is a bad thing. And until we get there, take care of yourselves, alright?